Hi, Donald here with another tips and tricks. And this tips and tricks is how to rig your grappling anchor. So I've got a grappling anchor here. This is a little bit bigger than what I would normally use. However, I just wanted to get something big enough that you guys can see in this video. So a grappling anchor looks like a grappling hook, you know, something like maybe, you see in the ninja movies from, a few years back. Okay, but basically it folds up and stores like this. When it's on your kayak, it takes up a lot less space. It's easy to kind of put on board. You're not worrying about it. These ears or these arms or these legs, whatever you want to call it, are out, so it's not snagging a whole lot. When you get ready to deploy it, it's a simple turn of the little collar. All of those open. It has a lock down here. If you can see, you can twist that and lock it, and now it won't collapse. It will grab. So it's designed to, as you put the anchor down, it comes down, and then as you drift back, those ears or those legs will grab onto something and hold on to it, and now you're anchored. Okay, so that is a grappling anchor, and that is a deployed grappling anchor. What I want to show you is that some grappling anchors come with some things on them that you want to take off, like this grappling anchor right here. This grappling anchor comes with a little clevis kind of thing, so we don't want that. We want to take this off. Anything that isn't the grappling anchor itself is going to cause a snagging issue and a snagging concern. So if yours has something like this, just remove it. You can use this on something else. Use it at the house or something, but chunk it. You don't need it, okay? Sometimes a grappling anchor will come with a carabiner of some sort on the top, like this. Get rid of this. You don't need it. This is going to cause you more headaches and more issues. This is a snag concern. We don't need any more snag concerns. The anchor is going to anchor you just fine. When you get into trees or limbs or rocks or anything else, anything that you have attached to this anchor now becomes a snag issue or a snag concern. So this, chunk it. We don't need it. We're going to do this. You're going to start with an anchor line. Okay? You get an anchor line, and I just use a nice cotton blend here. Is all I use is a nice cotton blend of anchor line. You're going to need a zip tie of some sort. I use a white one or black one, your choice. I like the medium duty zip ties, and you're going to need a roll of tape. Now I use electrical tape, but you can use duct tape or 100-mile-an-hour tape if you've ever been in the military. I like electrical tape because I keep it on the kayak. It's just one of those things that is in my first aid kit, and I'll get into that in a different video on the channel here in some other time in the future, but electrical tape is a great thing to take with you on the kayak. Anyway, okay, so we're going to start with the grappling anchor, and I'm going to fold this back up because it's easier to work with. So we're just going to fold it, lock it so it doesn't come open on us. And you're going to take the end of your rope, okay? And a lot of people want to go ahead and run this rope right through here, okay? We do not want to do that. This is a no, okay? Do not run it through this end, all right? I'm going to show you why. I'm going to tell you why in just a moment, but I want you to tie it to this end. This is the end that you want that rope tied to. So we're going to tie it to there. We're going to do this real simple, and I'm just going to tie a couple knots in this. I'm not going to loop this around. I'm not going to loop this around and try to tie it to itself. I'm not going to do this. I want to just tie a couple knots so that the knots won't go back through the hole of the anchor, okay? You can slide this knot down as far and as close to the end of the anchor line as possible. Try this again. So I'm just going to get a little knot here, and I'm going to get another knot here. And all that is going to do is tighten on itself, and then it's going to not go through that hole, right? Because it's bigger than the hole is, right? So it's just not going to go through the hole. But again, it's not tied around anything. It's just, it's on itself, okay? Now, the reason we don't tie it to this end, and we're going to zip tie it to this end. So we're going to kind of come up here and we're going to zip tie it. And the reason I want to express why we don't run it through this main hole is because a grappling anchor can get snagged. Okay, so the way this grappling anchor works, as if you just remember a few moments ago, it drifts along, right, and it digs into the ground or the rock or the whatever is on the bottom of the water surface, right? Whatever's on the bottom of the pond, river, lake, whatever you're fishing. If it gets into a snag area, like it gets underneath a tree or a tree trunk or a tree limb or a large rock, or gets wedged in oyster beds if you're saltwater fishing, okay? You're going to try to pull this, and if you have this rope attached to this hole up here, if you even have it ran it through there, it's going to constantly just keep pulling against itself. You're going to try to keep pulling this way and this way and this way, and you're never going to get that out. Even if you paddle yourself up to the anchor and you try to pull straight up, it's going to still pull on here and not here. So it's always going to get caught. And you're going to get snagged. You're going to try to yank it and everything else. You're going to pull yourself over. You're going to flip your kayak. That's not a good thing. Okay? So what we want to do, there's another aspect of that is if something happens, a wave or a wake or something like that comes along and just slams into you and pushes you and causes this anchor to catch all of a sudden. If your rope is tied to this hole, it's going to get that same scenario. It's going to catch and your kayak's going to roll and you're going to dump and you're going to lose stuff out of your kayak. So do not run the line through this hole, okay? What we want it to do, okay, is have it with a zip tie up here, and I'm going to show you this in just a minute. But what's going to happen is if it gets snagged, okay, I'm trying to pull. The zip tie that's through this hole is going to break, all right? And a nice quick snatch, snaps it, and look what happens, right? Now, instead of trying to pull this end, you're going to pull this end, and that anchor comes right up. So that's the way these are supposed to work. These are designed to work in that manner, so that if it does get snagged, this breaks away, and then you pull the anchor upside down to the boat, okay? And keeping some zip ties on your kayak is a great idea, because if you do get snagged and you want to re-anchor, you can just put a new zip tie on there. So I'm going to collapse this. I'm going to grab my zip tie. Okay, and you can zip tie it through the hole if you like. You can zip tie it around this the shaft here. You can zip tie it however you want. It's really up to you at this point. If you put it on the shaft, if you will, of the anchor, keep in mind it may slip up and down, and it will give you, that's your fulcrum point for picking it up. So I like to put it through the hole, and I'm going to get my zip tie here, and I'm just going to put the zip tie right through the hole, just like this. I'm going to put the line over the zip tie, okay, flip this around, and I'm just going to use this zip tie to now hold that line, okay. This is a little loose. It doesn't have to be super tight, all right. This is a little loose. Even your zip tie is a little loose. I like to cut the excess off, but I'm just going to fold this down just because it's visual purposes. So now what happens, right, is that zip tie is going to allow you to pull that anchor right side up, as long as it's not snagged. I'm pulling pretty hard there and it's not breaking, okay? So as long as it's not caught and snagged anywhere, it's going to allow you to bring that anchor up just like this, okay? If it gets snagged, right, if it's on the bottom and it's on rocks or oyster bed or something like that, see it broke, right? That's a quick snatch, it broke, and it's going to bring that anchor up just like this. You are snag free. That is the way to rig your grappling anchor. Okay, I've rigged up another one here and it's got a zip tie. So now I'm going to put this tape, and I'm going to take this electrical tape and I'm just going to run it along here, and that's just going to kind of cover up my zip tie so that it doesn't get snagged on tree limbs or anything like that really easy. So that's how I kind of cover that up, just to make it a little more snag free, right? If it's through your hole, just cover up your hole and your zip tie is covered. Now, at the other end of your anchor line, I like to put a buoy, okay? And the reason I put a buoy is if I have to dump anchor for safety reasons, or if I'm into a fish, I can release my anchor line, rather quickly, and then come back and get it when I need to. So a buoy allows me to discard the anchor line without having to worry about losing my anchor or my anchor line itself. So I like to attach a buoy. And again, there's no zip tie on here. I just do a few knots so that the knots are big enough not to slip through the buoy. Okay, so I'm just going to make a few knots here. They're just overhand knots. They're not a complicated. You don't need to be a Navy guy or a Navy gal to figure out these knots. These are just very simple, easy knots to tie. So now my buoy is on there. Now a lot of people will like to loop this and then tie it to itself. Now I don't like to do that, and the reason I don't like to do that is kind of like the safety thing with the anchor itself. I like to have this float wherever it needs to, so that if I've got if I'm only in 15 feet of water or 30 feet of water, this float will come up and the slack will stay down like this. Okay, I don't have to worry about anything else. If you've got it looped like this, it can still work. I just like it as a safety factor because now there's no loop here for me to get snagged on inside my kayak, and I try to eliminate as many snags as I can. So here it's just a knot, right? And as if I tighten this up and continue to tighten this up and get it wet, this knot will actually form onto itself, and there is less chance for snags. So that is how you rig your your grappling anchor properly with a zip tie, and do not run it through the eye, right? So real quick recap: do not run it through here, run it through here, tie a couple of overhand knots, do not tie the anchor to itself. And the reason for that is because if something happens, you can always replace this anchor line a lot easier when the knots are at the end rather than it's over here. That's just a safety thing. It also gives you less snag. So if a tree limb or something sticks through your loop of your rope, now you've got another snag. If you just have a knot down there, there's nothing to snag on. Okay, run your anchor line along your shaft of your anchor, put a zip tie, clamp your rope down with your zip tie, leave it just a little bit loose, and then that gives you a break-free, snag-free anchor system, right? And on the other end, you attach a buoy. And that way you can retrieve your anchor line. And we're going to go in, I'll get into how to retrieve anchor lines and safety things and anchor line cleats and things like that in another video. But that does it for this tips and tricks on how to rig a grappling anchor for your kayak. Thank you all for watching. Please tune in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central for more tips and tricks right here on the Floating Feathers Kayak Fly Fishing channel. I have been Donald. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe below if you have not. And y'all stay safe. Safe paddles, tight lines.